how do we add groups to branches? That's a question from Thomas. That's an amazing question. So this is kind of tying to the groups that I spoke before. So I'm very happy the two subjects I talk about kind of tied together. So there is two different ways to add a group to the branch. Way number one, which is something that would apply to, for example, your branch administrator. You can go into a specific branch. So I'm just going to go here. And again, this is something that your branch administrators can do if you've also given them the ability to create groups. And you see now I have a different environment. I'm in a branch. Here I can click Add Group. And what this is going to do, it's going to create a new group inside this very specific branch. That's one way to do it. I'll click on the big arrow to go back home. And actually, I'll show you how a super admin can do it. Because remember, I'm the super admin. I'm not tied by any rules here. So what alternatively I can do is I can create a new group from the main site or go to an already existing one. And you know what? I'll use the data protection I used before, or maybe digital compliance. So I can actually go here and you see I have the option to set it in a branch. If this is blank, it means it belongs on the main site. If I want to give it to a specific branch, I just click and pick the branch that I want to add it to. So I can put it under marketing, for example. Can click update. That's it. You see now it's under marketing. It has its own label as well. So essentially, two different ways to do it. It depends on which of the two you actually want to use. Let's see more questions. That's from an anonymous attendee. Super. You don't need to give us your name. It's absolutely okay. Do branches have separate discussions and calendar? Very, very nice question as well. So the calendar is not a feature that is tied to the branch or to the main site. It is tied to a user, which means every user is going to have their own calendar. A more simple way to say this, if I have a user which is a part of 6 branches, they will only have one calendar. So it doesn't matter if my user is on the main site or branch A or branch B or branch C, they will always have the same calendar. If events get added due to courses that are in different branches, they still would be able to see them because they tie to the main calendar. Discussions, though, they are very, very different. Why is that? First off, in regards to discussions, it's a feature that the instructor creates. So I'm going to mouse over my name, swap over to instructor. Now I'm an instructor. And you see I have the discussions here. So if I click to see the discussions, I can see, for example, I have the Learner Lounge, which, as you see, is public. I can just go in here to see what is available on this specific course, but also on this discussion, edit it. And as you see, everybody can see this topic. What does this mean? This means that the discussion is open to everybody. Is it though? So as we saw it, this is the Learner Lounge. So if I swap over to whichever branch I want, maybe we can go to the Spanish one. Why not? And here I am. And actually, I make myself again an instructor and actually check here to see what I have available. I see nothing. Why? So first off, the takeaway is that the discussions are branch specific. Why they're branch specific? This has to do with where they exist. So if I go once more back to the Learner Lounge that I was before, which is a discussion on the main site, you are going to see that it has an actual web address. And this web address is my main site. However, if this was a discussion in a branch, it would have a different address, which would be the branch address / discussion / index and the rest. So always keep in mind the discussions are branch specific. So if you want to have a discussion for everybody, make sure that you add a copy of it essentially to a course that belongs in different branches, or maybe you go to a branch and you make an open one for everybody there. So keep in mind the discussions are indeed branch specific. Hope that answers your question. Let's see other questions here. A question from Dana. And Dana is asking, can I change the default role for a user according to which branch they're actively in. Very nice question. For example, I need a manager to be an instructor in one branch, but I need them to be a learner in the other. The short answer for this is no, you cannot. Let me explain why. I get a lot of people that ask this question, and the idea is that you want people to have specific roles based on the branch that they belong in. That makes a lot of sense. However, what type of user you are is something that is not tied to which places you can visit, but is instead tied to your actual account. And I can even see this on my own account. For example, if I mouse over my name and I click here, my info, you're going to see that I have my user type. Your user type is one and the same. So it doesn't matter which part of TalentLMS you're going to access. If it is the main site, if it is branch A or branch B, your user type remains constant across all of the places. So what could you realistically do as a workaround for this, Dana? You could maybe create a second account for that person. Or if in some specific, for example, courses, you want them to be a simple learner and you don't want them to have extra permissions, there's a workaround I want to show you since we have enough time. So I can go into any course, and let's say I want to go into this specific course here, and I can check on the users that I have enrolled. And you see I have Maria here. Maria is enrolled as an instructor. However, I'm an admin. And what I can do is I can swap her role over to learner if I want. So now for this specific course, Maria is going to be registered as a learner and not as an instructor. So that's kind of an alternative if you want to do with some people that you want to give them higher access in some places, but in some other courses, you just want them to be learners. This is how you can set it up. And in these specific courses, they're just going to be learners. So I hope that actually makes sense. I see another question, how to add an admin only for one branch? And will this admin still have the learner profile for the other courses on the main page? Super nice question as well. Now, kind of the second part of this question is what I just answered. So their user type is something that they're going to have across the whole platform. If they're an admin, they're everywhere an admin. If they're an instructor, they can always be an instructor. If they're a learner, they're always just a learner. So if you give them the ability to become an admin, this means that this account can everywhere be an admin where they're allowed to be. So with that said, the alternative, as I just showed you, is to register them to a course as a simple learner. But what about adding an admin to the branch? There's a couple of different ways you could do this. By default, in TalentLMS, if you go to your user types, you're going to have 4 user types: the super admin, the trainer, and the learner. Specifically, what you want is, if you want to add somebody to a specific branch, and that person should be an admin. Could you go ahead and make your own user types with custom permissions? Absolutely. But right now, let's say we have a person that is an admin, we want to add them to the branch. So all we have to do is find our users. And let's say here I have Abe. And Abe is, as you see, a simple learner. So if I wanted Abe to be a branch administrator, I would need to do 2 things. First off, edit his account and make sure I swap him over from learner to an admin. Not a super admin, a normal admin. And that's a big difference between an admin and an instructor, or an admin and a super admin, is that the super admin is not forced to follow the rules. So I'm just going to make him an admin, nothing beyond that. And I can save that. That's move number 1. Move number 2, I'll go to the branch that I want and basically add him as a user there. So let's actually do both of these steps. Let's add them to, I don't know, to the distributor branch, for example, and also make sure that this person is going to be here an admin. And I'm going to save it. So there's this person. And now what I want to do is I want to check I did everything correct. So more, log into account, and now I'm impersonating this user. And now you see the distributor branch where the specific person is, and he's actually an administrator inside here, as this is that. So I do hope this answers your questions. Now, I think we do have time for one more question. Is that correct, Theo?
Yes, absolutely. But make sure to pick something that we really, really want to know. I can see a couple of same questions here.
Okay, so let me see. Because indeed, we have quite a lot of questions. Can I have a custom name for my branch? And that's a question from Meredith. So the answer is kind of dual. Your branch will always have its own name, in the sense that when you go ahead and actually create a branch, so let me go back to being myself. So when you create a branch, the branch is going to have its own address, and that address is always a subdomain of your main site. You can see this here. My main site is here, TalentLMS webinars.talentlms.com. This branch is called marketing. Its address, marketing, its name, dash TLMS webinars.talentlms.com. So basically, if you add a name to your branch, and probably you want to give it a name, then its address becomes its name, dash, and then your main site. Very easy. Could you actually change this completely and have this be marketing.com, for example? Not as such. If you want to, though, and if you have actually created a custom domain and you have mapped this custom domain to your main site, which is something that you can do through here, account the settings domain, and here you can map a custom domain. Of course, this is a bit more technical. It comes with its own set of rules that you can follow. But the most important rule, you must be the owner of the domain you want to add, right? So I cannot map my TalentLMS to a domain I am not the owner of. So if you do that, and maybe I call this, let's say, the best training in the world.com, then the name of my branches would actually follow along. So my branch would be marketing.thebesttrainingintheworld.com. So it would still be a subdomain from my main site, same naming convention, but it would actually inherit the suffix, the end, instead of being .talentlms.com, would be my custom domain.